So very warm welcome to this workshop which we are conducting under knowledge incubation under TechWhip in the third phase of TechWhip, TechWhip 3 at IIT Bombay. So we abbreviated by TechWhip 3 KITE. KITE stands for knowledge incubation under TechWhip. And together with the IIT Bombay X program here. So, we have participants coming from TechWhip institutions, and we also have participants who have registered under our Teaching and Learning Center under the Madan Mohan Malviya scheme here at IIT Bombay. So it's a joint endeavor, and we have participants from both streams in this workshop. So I'm very happy to welcome the TechWhip 3 participants and also the participants who come from the Lakshya portal under the Madan Mohan Malviya scheme Teaching and Learning Center at IIT Bombay. My name is Vikram M. Gadre. I am a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Bombay, and I am going to be your instructor in this workshop. In fact, I am also the instructor in the background faculty development program course that all of you are registered for. All of you must be aware that you're all registered for a course, a faculty development program course under IIT Bombay X. Before we go on to more details of the workshop, I would like to say a few words about the IIT Bombay X program with which I've been associated for more than 3 years now, in fact more than that, almost 5 years. And also about the knowledge incubation under TechWhip program. All the participants from the TechWhip institutions would know about the Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, or TechWhip as it is abbreviated. The Technical Education Quality Improvement Program is a program supported by the World Bank, and it is essentially orchestrated in India through what is now the Ministry of Education, and it is the erstwhile Ministry of Human Resource Development, or MHRD as it was called earlier, and now it is Ministry of Education. TechWhip is in its third phase. So there was the first phase of TechWhip, and then there was the second phase of TechWhip, which ended towards the end of March 2017. And the third phase of TechWhip began somewhere in the later part of 2017 and is now slated to continue until the end of March 2021, with an extension given after September of the current year. IIT Bombay X is an educational outreach program of IIT Bombay, and several courses have been developed under this educational outreach program. I'm very happy that this course on signals and systems has also been developed under the IIT Bombay X program. And I'm even more happy today to make this course available to you as faculty. Remember, now you're registered for the course as faculty. You're not doing it as just any other student. You're registered for the course as faculty. Everything in the course is available to you, but available with a different objective. I know that many of you might actually be experts in signals and systems. You might have already taught the subject on many platforms, either maybe in your own institution, or you might have conducted small workshops in your own institution or elsewhere, or you might have even delivered lectures, expert lectures on the subject in one way or the other in different institutions, and therefore many of you are likely to be quite knowledgeable about the subject. And therefore, when I speak to you, I'm speaking to you as a peer, not really as an instructor. The only role that I'm playing as an instructor, quote unquote instructor here, is that I have developed this, or I have been the prime instructor. When I say I develop, I must remember that it's not just I who developed. It was I, my students, all the studio team here, which I'll introduce to you as we go along, and several others who were a part of IIT Bombay X. So when a course like this is developed, or a resource like this is developed, it engages many people with different kinds of talents and capabilities. Faculty, students, people in a studio, people in a distance education program, people in administration, and so on. So in that sense, to that extent, I'm an instructor, in the sense that, I have sort of put together my way of delivering this subject, signals and systems, to my own student audiences in the past, and given it to you as an offering in this pedagogy workshop. So all of you are implicitly registered for this course. But as I said, the activities of grading here are a little different from what you would be doing if you were taking the course to learn the subject. The activities that you're going to be doing here for grading relate to how you now review what that course has and make use of it to plan your own offering, even taking directly from this course. So in fact, I would be very happy if you made this course available to your students in future, the course that you have been registered for, make it available to your students in future. But in the back of your mind, you have the thinking that we exchange in this workshop over 3 days. The thinking on how this course should be made joyful, pleasant, an experience which students will cherish and faculty will also cherish. So how do we make this subject delightful, joyful to the student? How do we make this subject be delivered effectively? That is important. How do we present this subject before a student audience in a manner that appeals to them, but more than just appealing, trains them in a way that we want them to be trained in the subject. What do we mean by that? What do we mean by training the student in a manner that we want them to be trained in the subject of signals and systems? That is what we wish to reflect upon as we go ahead in this workshop. Now, I have myself taught this course. I've also taught subsequent courses, related courses, and therefore I have a reasonably good idea of what it means for a student to be competent in this subject, and what we as faculty would expect a student to achieve to be called competent in this subject. What is more, this subject is not only important to the disciplines of electrical engineering or electronics engineering or telecommunication engineering or electronics and telecommunication, it is also important for many other disciplines of engineering today. So you would be pleasantly surprised to know that signals and systems actually forms the foundation for control systems. For example, control systems is a subject which many engineers use, whether it be, of course, from electrical engineering, electronics engineering, telecommunication engineering, and instrumentation, but also in mechanical engineering, civil engineering, aerospace engineering, metallurgical engineering. Well, name the discipline of engineering, and some form of control engineering is a part of it today. It's difficult to separate control from many different engineering disciplines, and if you really wish to understand the principles of control engineering, you need to have a good understanding of signals and systems. So there you are. In an age where control systems, embedded systems are important, an appreciation of signals and systems is important as well, even to the computer scientist. So therefore, this subject in that sense is wide-ranging in its use and application. I would dare say that all of you are doing the nation a great service by discussing the pedagogy of this subject, making it a pleasure for faculty to teach and students to learn. Now, having said that, one more point about this workshop. This workshop carries on for 3 days. In fact, we have 2 workshops, one after the other. Many of you would probably know that. In fact, I'm very happy to see that many of you are actually registered for this workshop and are also going to continue into the second workshop, which will start on the next Friday for the second part of this course. However, what I'm trying to emphasize here is that in this workshop, which will carry on for 3 days, that is starting from now and ending on the afternoon of Monday, 30th November 2020, we will do things differently from learning the subject. See, as I said, many of you are probably already experts in this subject. If you're not, I'm sure you will be experts very soon by interacting with your colleagues who are experts. But the point that we wish to pursue in this whole workshop is what this subject means to a teacher, what this subject means to a pedagogue, to a person who's concerned about teaching and learning. What topics we would typically conceive of as being important. And in fact, in a 1 semester course on signals and systems, we would really have the 2 workshops coming together. So, we should be doing this workshop of 3 days and the next workshop of 3 days, which starts on the 4th of December and continues until the 7th of December 2020, next weekend. Actually, both of them together constitute a typical semester course on signals and systems. However, in the interest of making things palatable, making things easy to absorb and reflect upon, we have divided it into 2 workshops. You will notice I've also divided the courses into 2. The course is divided into 2. There's an E210.1x and there's an E210.2x. Together, they really form a typical signals and systems course. Now, today's session is meant to introduce you to the modus operandi of this workshop and also to introduce you to one another and to me. I have also already introduced myself. I am a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering. I'm just repeating it. I'm a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Bombay. I typically work in the area of signal processing and communications, and with a special interest, research interest in multi-resolution signal processing, wavelets, multi-rate systems, and all allied themes and topics. I have, of course, supervised PhD level work in this theme, and signals and systems, of course, comes at the foundation of this research theme. That is my connection with the subject. Moreover, I cherish this subject as a subject to be taught. I love to teach this subject. It's a beautiful subject to teach, and it's a beautiful subject to learn. I'll share with you, when I was a young undergraduate student in my second year, and when we had this subject as a core subject for the first time, I remember that it used to seem somewhat abstract. In the beginning, one used to wonder, well, where is all this going? But then in electrical engineering, one doesn't have to wait very long to discover where it's going. One sees very quickly how the principles of signals and systems come together beautifully to form principles of communication, principles of control, principles of instrumentation, and what have you. Similarly, I'm sure all of you would want to make this subject accessible to your students. And for that, the practice that we are going to follow is, you are going to, in groups of, I would say 3 or 4, in fact, your groups have already been formed, and you've been told about your group composition. So I'm going to actually call you group wise to introduce you to everybody else. All of you know to which group you belong, and I would like you to introduce yourself group wise. You're going to form groups of 3 or 4 faculty, and each group is going to take up one aspect of what we would be learning in that week. So it's going to be like this. In this session, we are essentially going to break the ice and become familiar with one another. That would itself consume 2 hours nearly. And then we'll develop some general principles. We'll also, this is again to be done mutually. I mean, I don't want to impose a certain way of working, though I have certain thoughts. I would like to hear your thoughts as well, right? If we should do things a little differently, and we will incorporate them. But broadly, we'll do things like this. Now we have tomorrow, we have Sunday, and we have Monday. Well, tomorrow, Saturday, we'll give you time until 11:30 in the morning to look at the material of this course E210.1x up to the week 2, so weeks 1 and 2. And you will be given different parts of the material of that week to come and present before everybody else. And we will critically review how you're presenting those things, or you'll also critically discuss how that material should be brought before a student audience. Can it be brought better? What should be the nuances of bringing it, and so on. Similarly, in the afternoon, so every time we'll have a session where you begin with interaction within your groups, and you come up prepared to make a small, not so formal presentation in the interactive session. So we'll have our first interactive session tomorrow at 11:30 for almost 1.5 hours, where each group will then present briefly how it would present its own topic. Then in the afternoon, we'll do the same. First, we'll give you time until 4 p.m. to review and prepare for weeks 3 and 4, and you will come prepared and make a presentation for weeks 3 and 4. On Sunday morning, it would be for weeks 5 and 6, and on Sunday afternoon, it would be for weeks 7 and 8. So on Sunday evening, we expect to have essentially gone through this course broadly. And on Monday morning, all of you will sit together and frame certain assignments and make some kind of a question paper. You will make a question paper. And you will discuss it among yourself. You will at least, prepare some kind of an instructor solution, so-called instructors. I don't know whether to call it model solution. The word model has always puzzled me. What is a model? There can be different ways of solving a problem, but then yes, I mean some kind of a model solution, if you want to call it that. And you would also come prepared with what kind of assignments you would like to give the student. And you can take inspiration from the assignments that are there in that course, from the tests and quizzes that are there in the course, whatever it is. I mean, you have to come prepared. You get the entire Monday morning to discuss within your group and come prepared on Monday afternoon. And this would be the last session of the course, where some of you, ideally all of you, all groups, will come and show us what kind of a question paper they've set, what kind of assignments they've come out with, what they have learned from this workshop, what they will carry. And in fact, let me now emphasize, on Monday, your journey in this subject will really begin. So these 3 days are meant to launch you into the subject, into the pedagogy of the subject. They are not meant to complete your exposure to the pedagogy. They are meant to launch you into the pedagogy of the subject. Though you should have traveled quite a distance in these 3 days. And to ensure that you travel a large distance in these 3 days, we have an activity after every session. So for example, after this session, you have an activity too. By 11:30 tomorrow, that is Saturday, tomorrow 28th November, you need to put up and submit graded activity 1, where you're essentially going to tell us what you learned from this introduction session, the new people you got to know, perhaps people from your own group, they may be unknown to your others as well. Anyway, you have to identify participants that you got to know in this session and what you learned from them when they introduced themselves and shared their own experiences. Then in every session where you people are breaking away and discussing and preparing for the interactive session, you have to report broadly on what material is there in those weeks, broadly. And when I say broadly, you don't have to write an essay or a thesis on it. You just have to write half a paragraph, so it's quite doable. It's just a 10-minute job, but the 10-minute job needs to be done. Because by doing it, we know that you are engaged with this workshop. Then in the interactive session, you will of course listen to all the presentations and you will make your summary of it. So each of you needs to present a summary. We are not going to be very evaluative of the summary. but we are going to be particular that you submit that summary, because that ensures that you are engaged with the workshop. That means there are going to be one such assignment for every session, and that gives you 10 assignments, and there are 10 marks per assignment, so you have a total of 100 marks for this pedagogy workshop. And to complete this workshop successfully, you need to get a good score. So we are going to see your score. Your score will essentially be based on, it's more like a compliance score, it's not really too evaluative. We really need you to comply with submitting these things, because by complying, we know you're engaged. We are not going to be very critical of what you submit. In fact, what you should do is you can be critical yourself of what you've submitted later by looking back at it. But having submitted it during this workshop will ensure that you reflect upon it later. That's pedagogy upon pedagogy, if you want to call it that. These are little tricks we learn after, you become gray-haired, like I am now at this present stage of, if you look at the course itself and if you look at me now, you will see difference in the level of grayness of my hair. That's how teachers should be. Their hair should gray as time goes. And that graying of hair in a lighter vein should also convey their increase of experience. Of course, all this is in a lighter vein. Now, coming back to this workshop, I would now like to have you introduce yourself, and we'll say more about what we intend to do as we go along. We'll break in between. Nothing should be monotonous. That's another very subtle point about any session where you want to interact with people. It should never get too boring. It should never get too monotonous. So now I would like to hear each of you introduce yourselves, and somewhere in between we'll break again to give some instructions and things like that. I'll keep it as a surprise where we'll break. Right? So now let me very warmly welcome the members of group 1. So we'll go systematically. We'll go group wise. Yes. We have participants from the Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, TechQuip, and we have participants from other institutions. We have intentionally combined those in every group. And I'm expecting something from the TechQuip participants. Remember, the TechQuip participants need to play a role of leadership. In every group, I'm expecting the TechQuip participants to play a role of leadership. They should lead the group in some way and make sure that the group delivers. And this association in your group should not only be for these 3 days, it should be a long-term association where you build upon your skills even in the future. So I will keep saying more about what you expect to be doing together. But now let me welcome the members of group 1 and let me start requesting them to introduce themselves one by one. If you don't mind, I would like you to yourself coordinate. So this time I'll do it, but the next time I think you can do it yourself.